Hey, welcome to this video lesson for the simple art tutorials. Now I'm just going to show you a couple things to get you started, but the most important thing to keep in mind with this lesson are these two quotes. There is no must in art because art is free, and every artist was first an amateur. So I'm well aware that probably the vast majority of you guys, you don't have much experience in art, you don't have a lot of like understanding of techniques that can help you create drawings that really look sharp, because we're all amateurs, and I'm totally right there with you. But just remember, for art, it's just having some fun, trying some things out. And one of the most important things to keep in mind is just not trying to rush through it. I found in my limited experience with making art is the longer you take and the more details you try to go, generally the better off you are. So I did have a former student, Jill Janis, who was quite talented, and she put together 5 different drawings, all using the basic brush tool, but different options on it. So what for your assignment is to pick any two, at least 2 of these, and create 2 original drawings. Now let me just show you an example of one of hers. Let's say the one she used for soft lines. Very cool. So what she did is she created her drawing, and she gave us some tips down here. So you want to read those tips and then decide if you want to try the soft lines, or here's another one, a watercolor. So here's the original picture she used as her model, and here's what she drew it with. And here's some of her tips. So what you're going to do first is decide what you want to draw and go out to Google and get an image of it. Or if you want to just try to do it from your mind, you can. I have a dog, a Lhasa Apso dog, so I'm going to use this picture. So I'm going to right click and copy it. Now I'm going to open up my Dreamweaver, and I'm going to create a new file. And since I just copied that picture, Dreamweaver will automatically bring in the dimensions of that picture. What I want to do is make it twice as wide. So instead of 500, I'm going to make it 1,000. Or I can make it even a little bit wider. And that way, I can paste that picture on, and then I can move it over, and now I can draw over here. So I can use that as my model. Now, a couple things I want to show you before you get rolling. It's important that you close these things up. You want to make sure when you start to draw that you're not drawing on the same layer as the original picture, because that can get things kind of messy. So I'm going to lock this layer down. But what I'm going to do first is a nice little technique. Depending on what your model, what you're using, this picture, this dog, has a lot of white to it. So since my background, my color of my canvas is also white, it's not going to be easy to draw using the white colors. So I want to either put like a square. I could put like a square color on the back of this backdrop, so that when I draw, I would draw over it. So I could do something like that. Put that on the bottom layer. Or what I'm going to do here, which is kind of neat, I'm going to use this tool, and I'm going to highlight a chunk of this grass, and then I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to paste it. And then what I'm going to do is take it over here, and then I'm going to copy it again and paste it again. Hey. Control C. Control C is copy. I'm doing it with my keyboard. Or you could also just say edit, copy, edit, paste. Either way. And I'm going to keep doing that and making lots of these strips. And what I'm going to do, once I get 3 of them across the way, then I'll be able to, there it is. Then I'll be able to select all 3 at once. Over here I can do it using the Shift key. And then I can copy and paste them all 3 at once. And then I can move them down. And now that I have that, I can copy all those at once, and so on and so forth. So I think you get the idea with that. Okay, so I'm back. I did a little background thing. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a new layer here, layer 2, and I'm going to lock the layer 1 down and close it, because I don't want to mess around with layer 1 anymore. So I'm going to lock it down. So everything I draw now will be on its own layer on top of that background. And let's go back, and I want to use the watercolor. So it says using a brush tool, select watercolor and then thin. and then she gave a few different tips. But basically you can see all those little lines are individual strokes, and she does is change the colors up a little bit so you can get you know, some darker and some lighter inside, and then also from the different areas of the animal that have different colors. So it's like some gradients that you're doing, and each one's a different stroke, so you have to just take your time and go slow and take it easy. So if I'm going to select the brush tool, and then I'm going to go down to the option here, the stroke category, and I'm going to choose, for this one I'm going to choose watercolor, and I'm going to try thin. And then I'm going to select the color, and remember what you can do, you can touch your original picture and use that as a guide. So let's say if I want to do the dog's dark spots first, I could select that, and then I could come over here and roughly get it in place, and I could start to draw out those lines. And then you can see he's got some white in there too, so I'll start to mix it around. And I'm just going to play around and experiment. And maybe this is going to turn out to be a disaster, and I was like, I'm just going to start over. Maybe I should do an outline of the dog first and fill it in. So I'm just going to experiment, play around, try to go from different. So right now I have a really thick edge or a thin edge, so I can play around with that a little bit and just see what you come up with. You'll be surprised how good it can get. Now I want to show you a second technique for those of you who are completely like just not happy at all with your freestyle. You could use the image like a tracing table. So what I mean by that is if you said File, New, create a new image. Now I'm going to go back out. Actually, I should go do this first. Copy that dog again. Copy that. Paste him in. Now if you want to use him as a tracing image, you could, what you want to do is turn down his opacity, like right where I'm doing here, and to whatever looks good for you, maybe around there. And then what you definitely want to do is make sure you lock the layer down. If you're going to do this technique, it's really important you lock the layer down, because if you start to draw your trace over the top of the picture, the two things will get smashed together. So I'm going to lock that layer down. I'm going to add a new layer in, and then I'm going to choose my brush, and then I'm going to start whatever style. Maybe this one I'll try the airbrush. That was another one, basic airbrush. And now I'm going to just trace over that image. And of course this will be a lot easier for getting the shape right. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to do at least 2 of these pictures. And if you do the tracing, then do at least 1 freestyle. You know, and I know if it just turns out like, oh, not that great, just go with it, try to do your best. And if your second one you want to do the tracing style, that's fine. But don't do 2 traces. You know, try at least 1 with your freestyle and see how it goes. Also, if anyone really gets into their first picture and they really take their time and it's going to take them like 2 or 3 days, then you can just do 1. I mean, if it's obviously good, high quality in the sense that, you know, you put a lot of effort into it, then you can just write, like when you link it up, say, oh, I just only did 1, it took me 3 days. Because this is a 15-point assignment, so basically it's intended to take you about 3 days to complete the 2 drawings. So if you really get into it, I've had students before do some really wonderful work. So if that happens, just doing 1 is fine. Also, as long as you've spent like 3 days and put a lot into it. So hopefully this video helps you a little bit. I don't really have a lot of techniques to share. It's really just taking your time and always remember doing your new layers over here.